Hey guys, Comic Boom here to talk about a review of Greg Rucka's full Wonder Woman run. Now, just to give you a heads up and a warning, this definitely contains spoilers. I've already done a couple of videos, 3 or 4 videos maybe, I think, on Wonder Woman, Greg Rucka's run. So you can go back and watch those if you want to hear my review of that. I just want to give my overall synopsis and discuss what I see are a number of things which were basically unanswered with Greg Rucka's run. As I said before in other videos, Greg Rucka's run is undoubtedly going to be remembered fondly by most people. Less so by myself, but I acknowledge that it had its strong points. Artistically, it seemed to go over well for the most part. But what I want to do here is I want to look at Greg Rucka's run with a more critical eye. If you're new to Wonder Woman, you're going to really enjoy Greg Rucka's run. Those 25 issues, first 25 issues of Rebirth. For those of you who are like me and are more in depth with DC comic book history and Wonder Woman history and the New 52, and interested in DC Rebirth going into the inevitable Watchmen crossover, there's a lot of unanswered questions and there's a lot of question marks resulting from Greg Rucka's Wonder Woman run, and I just want to look at a more critical eye of his Wonder Woman run right now. All constructive criticism, and it might not be criticism because Greg Rucka is a good enough writer that if there's some unanswered questions, chances are there's a very good reason why Mr. Rucka put those unanswered questions in the narrative, probably to entice other writers to pick up the questions and move forward with it. But nonetheless, let's see what we have. One of the first questions I have was that it was unclear at the beginning what was the triggering event that made Wonder Woman decide that suddenly her entire life was a lie. That was never really made clear. Because ultimately the entire initial Wonder Woman run was called Lies, and she discovered that her entire world was a lie. And she ultimately ended up, the entire 25 issue run was her discovering what the actual truth was, and she discovered that the gods kept her in the dark. But what was the triggering event to make her ask or believe that her life was a lie in the first place? That was never really made clear. I mean, it was even made clear in Superman. Superman's had to deal with some lies. Superman and in Action Comics had to come to terms with what the truth was in the DC universe. A lot of the DC universe is a lie because Dr. Manhattan, it would appear that the Watchmen influence in the DC universe has influenced a lot of the characters' histories. Flash, Superman, Batman, Titans. And so there's a lot of unanswered questions running through all the titles. And so, in fairness to Mr. Rucka, I don't want to be too harsh on him on this point. But nonetheless, not really sure what was the triggering event that made Wonder Woman suddenly decide that her world was filled with lies. It didn't quite make sense to me. I wish that could have been made more clear, but maybe it will as we get closer to the DC Rebirth and Watchmen crossover. Why Ferdinand? When Wonder Woman discovered that her world was a lie, when she discovered that she'd never actually been home, when Wonder Woman discovered and realized that she'd never actually been home to Themyscira, and that the place that she was visiting and having adventures on during the New 52 era was nothing but a fabrication and a complete lie, she reacts by literally going into a catatonic state, and she's institutionalized. And oddly enough, what gets her out of the coma is Ferdinand. You would think Steve Trevor giving her the magic lasso would snap Wonder Woman out of it, but that's not what snaps Wonder Woman out of her catatonic state. It's Ferdinand, this half-man beast Kithatar, or he's actually a Minotaur, but Greg Rucka wants to be pretentious, so he calls him something different, as if Wonder Woman's mythological characters aren't confusing enough. It's not a Minotaur, it's a Kithatar. No, it's really a Minotaur, Mr. Rucka. And for some reason, it's this Minotaur that snaps her out of it. That's never explained why. There's no explanation as to why. This was a previous character that used to be this character named Ferdinand used to be Wonder Woman's chef back in the pre-New 52 era. And now suddenly he comes back with the magic lasso and he snaps her out of her catatonic state. It was actually kind of insulting because you'd think it would be Steve Trevor and his love and the magic lasso that would do it, but that was compromised by having it be this beast character. It makes absolutely no sense, and it was very disappointing and completely unexplained. He had plenty of time to explain why. What was the connection? That was never explained. Other criticism of the run, I believe it's fair to say that there was very little action. Very little action in 25 issues of Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is known as the peaceful warrior. Greg Rucka's run clearly focuses on the peaceful aspect. There's very little emphasis on the warrior aspect of Wonder Woman throughout the run. Now there was a few notable exchanges of action. There was actually the most exciting action sequence was when Wonder Woman was deflecting bullets and she ended up getting shot. But even that wasn't particularly as exciting as it could have been, because that's all she was doing, was deflecting bullets. And then she ends up getting shot anyway. So she wasn't even very good at that. Wonder Woman was not particularly good at deflecting bullets. She got shot. Incidentally, that's the other thing that was inconsistent. She was shot. Some bullets went completely through her. She didn't seem to be injured by it. She was knocked down, got up. Not a big deal. Not very consistent on Wonder Woman's powers. Greg Rucka doesn't seem to have a particularly good handle on her power set. The other thing, which is a criticism aside from the lack of action, was her overuse of the magic lasso. In fact, the magic lasso is overused to such an extent that it actually takes away from Wonder Woman as a character throughout this series. In the 2 times that Wonder Woman faced Ares, the first time she faced Ares, who Ares was actually at all material times, Ares was in fact not Ares, but being impersonated by the twin sons of Ares. Phobos and Deimos were impersonating their father, hoping to eventually discover the location of their father, Ares, who was basically caged on Paradise Island to protect themselves from the insanity and wars of man. When they first confronted Wonder Woman got on her knees, got on her knees and supplicated herself. So there's no action there. So she never really fought Ares the first time. Then she used her magic lasso. Somehow, for some reason, the magic lasso sort of evaporated and decimated Ares the first time. And then when she confronts Ares the second time in issue 23, for some inexplicable reason, Wonder Woman gets on her knees again, professes her love for 2 of the greatest tyrants in history, Phobos and Deimos, and wraps her lasso around them. But this time, for some reason, they don't escape. The first time she wrapped her magic lasso around them, they escaped. The second time she did it in issue 23, they didn't. No consistency there, didn't make a lot of sense, and ultimately, no action. Sad. Plus, it's an over-reliance on the magic lasso. One got the very strong impression that anybody could have done what Wonder Woman did. All they needed was the magic lasso. If all it takes to defeat Ares, the god of war, the most vile male in history, I don't think that there's not some gender politics in this series. This female empowerment. I mean, any female could have done it. Wonder Woman is not particularly special. She uses the magic lasso. Whoop-de-doo. And then to make it even more, to really drive that point home, when Wonder Woman loses the magic lasso, when she loses the Golden Perfect, the entire last issue, 25, is Wonder Woman turning into a miserable bitch, where she's complaining and she's miserable, and she takes it out on an alien that her and the Justice League are apprehending. And so it's almost like she needs the Golden Lasso to be a nice person. She's a moody, ungrateful, just not a particularly, she's grumpy when she doesn't have her magic lasso. Now, don't get me wrong, she's entitled to have a bad day. But the implication here is that Wonder Woman needs the lasso to be her usual nice self. And that's wrong. It's the wrong impression. So that was really played wrong, and I think it's given the wrong impression overall. Golden Perfect, well, even the name Golden Perfect, Rucka insisting on calling the lasso, it's been called the Golden Perfect before, but I think it's a very bad name for the magic lasso because it's not perfect. The truth is relative. There are no fundamental truths on the planet other than maybe to be good. But to call the lasso the Golden Perfect puts too much focus on the mythological take on it, which I think detracts from the storyline, because it also leads into another criticism here, and that is Wonder Woman's relationship with her gods in this series is really a little bit it's antagonistic as it always is, but her tolerance for the gods once again just has me shaking my head. It's the gods that cause all the torment. If bear in mind that the Phobos and Deimos, the bad guys of the story, are the twin sons of Aphrodite and Ares. And Aphrodite, if all it took to defeat Phobos and Deimos was love, why didn't Aphrodite love her kids? Why didn't Aphrodite, give her kids a hug? And the storyline could have ended on issue 1. I mean, this really doesn't make any sense. Why did it take Wonder Woman, who's got really no connection to Phobos and Deimos? Why did it take her and the Magic Glass? Why drag out this whole long storyline for what? I mean, just the laziness of the gods, the stupidity of the gods. It's just, and Wonder Woman's just acceptance of them, and then Wonder Woman finally gets upset with her gods in issue 25 because they kept her magic lasso, and then the gods come back and give her back her lasso, and she's happy again. But she doesn't question them. She doesn't get upset with them. She doesn't hold them accountable for their actions and what they did to Veronica Cale's daughter, keeping her on Paradise Island. Forcing Veronica Cale, blackmailing Veronica Cale, Phobos and Deimos did, into doing all the horrible actions that Veronica Cale did. I'm not defending Veronica Cale, but frankly, I am defending Veronica Cale a little bit. She has, if she was doing what she was doing for her daughter, so at least she had some noble purpose for becoming somewhat villainous. And the lack of compassion that Wonder Woman has for Veronica Cale is frankly inexcusable, yet she has that compassion for Barbara Minerva. She'll let Barbara Minerva's atrocities go when she's the cheetah because she used to be friends with her, but because Veronica Cale has the audacity to not like Diana. And there's no rule that says you got to like anybody, but because Veronica Cale doesn't like Diana, and she's got a very good reason not to like Diana. And frankly, I think you can understand why somebody whose daughter was lost because of Wonder Woman, because of the gods. Veronica Cale's, her motivations as a villain here, or just as an anti-hero, quite frankly, I think are well established. So in that respect, I give Greg Rucka kudos for that. But Wonder Woman's reaction, Wonder Woman really blew it. And I don't have a lot of sympathy for Wonder Woman at the end of this storyline. Wonder Woman hasn't learned her lesson. And that leads into another criticism. There's somewhat of a glaring disconnect here. Wonder Woman gets on her knees and she loves her enemies. Love conquers evil, love conquers war, peace conquers war. Wonder Woman at the end, when she wraps herself in the magic lasso, gets on her knees in front of Phobos and Deimos. That's an amazing thing to do, and she defeats them with her love. But she doesn't do this. She doesn't extend the same courtesy to Veronica Cale. As a matter of fact, when her and Veronica Cale finally get back to man's world, the first thing Wonder Woman does, she goes and she literally spent, and I kid you not, 5 minutes kissing Steve Trevor. While Veronica Cale is sitting there, finally Veronica Cale just leaves in the helicopter because it's like, really? We got back and the first thing you want to do is, focus on your boyfriend? I just lost my daughter because of your gods, because of your Amazons. Veronica Cale had every right to be pissed off. And yet Wonder Woman will forgive the tyrants, the greatest tyrants in the history of mythology, Phobos and Deimos, but she won't bring herself to supplicate herself or ask forgiveness or to love Veronica Cale. This hypocrisy there is palpable on this storyline. I'm just putting that out there anyway. Go Veronica Cale. Number of other things here. Wonder Woman went, that expression, you never go full retard, never go full retard. There's a meme on it. There's a movie about it with Robert Downey, I think. Never go full retard. If you're an actor, never go full retard in a role because it's not going to be successful. Well, I don't think you should ever go full godlike. Never go full Avatar. Never go full Christ-like. Because Wonder Woman was like Jesus Christ, totally forgiving, totally loving, in defeating her enemy, and then literally in the next issue is a complete bitch to Veronica Cale. Is angry, she does a complete flip-flop. And now, because Greg Rucka has made Wonder Woman perfect, absolutely perfect in every way. She's perfect. She's forgiving, she's loving, she's absolutely perfect in every way. Now that she's like that, well, now the question has to be asked. Every single enemy that Wonder Woman asks, when is she going to get on her knees and supplicate herself? When is she going to beg for food? When is she going to beg for mercy? When is she going to wrap her magic lasso around her enemies and overwhelm them with love? This ending was very unrealistic, and and so while it's a feel-good story for people who've never read Wonder Woman before, on a go-forward basis, this just doesn't bode well for Wonder Woman. Also, it's worth pointing out that this is not consistent with Wonder Woman in the movies, because Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman in the Wonder Woman movie was not an actionless princess. She was a peaceful warrior, but emphasis on the warrior. She kicked ass. She never got on her knees in front of Ares in the movie. She kicked his ass. She beat him, and his wrath upon the world was over. Unfortunately, in Greg Rucka's run, he tries to portray Ares as a sympathetic character. And one of the people who commented on one of my YouTube videos, I believe it was Tyler D, made an interesting observation with Ares in the comic book in Greg Rucka's run, is that Greg Rucka or Liam Sharp made Ares look like Superman, right? And I never noticed it before, but it was pointed out that he actually has a curl as well. Ares actually looks like a Superman-like character. And it's interesting because in many ways Greg Rucka really emasculated Ares. He's a victim. Ares is the victim, and Ares is the poor soul who's caged and trapped. And Ares, it's not Ares' love for his twin sons of Phobos and Deimos. It's not a father's love of his children that saves the day. Even Aphrodite, the goddess of love, her love can't save the day. No, it's Wonder Woman's love. Wonder Woman has to love two people she doesn't even know, Phobos and Deimos. It's very contrived and very forced, doesn't really work, and it really emasculates Ares, not to mention denigrates the power of love of Aphrodite. And so it compromises the mythology as well in that respect. And so I wonder if it's a little bit of a ding against Superman. It's like Ares looks like Superman, but his hope, his love isn't powerful enough. It takes Wonder Woman's love to do that. So it's kind of a little poke there. It's like, a little poke against the patriarchy maybe. I don't know, just putting that out there. Another little nitpick here is why Izzy, Veronica Cale's daughter, Veronica Cale's daughter was cursed by Phobos and Deimos by giving a blank face and having her identity removed. And while that curse was lifted, the condition of the curse is that Izzy has to remain on Paradise Island. In order to live a full life, she has to live on Paradise Island with the Amazons, and she's forever prevented from going to man's world and entering our realm. And so she must forever remain in paradise with the Amazons. Just like Wonder Woman in her own way has to endure a sacrifice by never being able to go back to paradise, never being able to go back to Themyscira. Why? We don't know. The gods have no problem returning the magic lasso to Wonder Woman that was used to bind Phobos and Deimos, but somehow they found a way to give the magic lasso back to Wonder Woman, but the gods can't be bothered to return a daughter to her mother. They can't return Izzy to Veronica Cale. It's appalling, and it's inexcusable. And Wonder Woman doesn't ask why. Wonder Woman very selfishly is more concerned with getting her magic lasso back. She's all happy. Good, I got my magic lasso back. I don't care about Izzy. I don't care of the fact that my Veronica Cale's daughter's not coming back to Veronica Cale. As a matter of fact, Wonder Woman is so selfish that rather than go back and say to Veronica Cale, look, I'm going to find a way to get your daughter back. No, what does Wonder Woman do? This caring, loving person, Wonder Woman goes back and expects Veronica Cale to help her change Barbara Minerva back to change the cheetah back to Barbara Minerva. That's Wonder Woman's focus. That's Wonder Woman's selfishness, not understanding. She has enough wherewithal to somehow understand and forgive Phobos and Deimos, the tyrannical gods, but somehow she can't do that for Veronica Cale. It's like women just don't get along with each other. I don't know. It's like, what is it with women? Two feminists hate each other. It's just, I don't know. Is that indicative of? But it's appalling Wonder Woman's actions here, that she can't show compassion toward an enemy who, if you think about it, if it wasn't for Veronica Cale, Wonder Woman would never have discovered the truth. And that's the truth. And it's a harsh truth. And it's almost like Wonder Woman resents that, and for that is not extending that olive branch to Veronica Cale. And it's really, really telling. And Veronica Cale points out Wonder Woman's hypocrisy right to her face, and Wonder Woman is silent. And whenever somebody's silent, when you point them with an argument, it means that you're right. And Wonder Woman didn't have an argument back. Veronica Cale said, "Why don't you just tell me the truth? This is what you want me to do. You want me to change the cheetah back to Barbara Minerva." But no, Wonder Woman made it sound as if the cheetah wanted to turn back to Barbara Minerva, and the cheetah doesn't want that. The cheetah made it clear she wants to stay the cheetah. Why? Because she's the villain, and that's the way it should be. And it's just as simple as that. Other thing I noticed here is with respect to Ada Candy. Ada Candy, I think Greg Rucka was right in writing Ada Candy as being somewhat pissed off at Wonder Woman. She should be a lot more pissed off at Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman had more failures in this 25 issues than successes. And what's astonishing about it is that I think that there seems to be this sort of implicit idea put forward that somehow we're supposed to view it all as a victory, when really there was more loss than anything else. And this, for a comic book guy like me who loves action, this was at the end of the day, the more I think about it, because I'm not a religious person, it was a deeply unsatisfying run, because it was. I felt the same way after watching Superman Returns. I'm one of the many who criticized Superman Returns because it was too Avatar-like. There was too much religious imagery in Superman Returns, and Superman never hit anybody. He never hit anybody. Wonder Woman doesn't hit anybody in this series. In 25 issues, she doesn't hit anybody. I mean, I shouldn't say that. She hits a couple, but she's a little aggressive with the cheetah at times, but then really puts the cheetah to sleep at the end. Everything is so gentle. It's just there should be more action. Finally, an overall observation here and this was clearly one of Greg Rucka's intentions, and it was his very intention that I respectfully disagree with, but it's the new reality for Wonder Woman. Greg Rucka has brought Wonder Woman back to perfection. It is no coincidence that issue 25, the final issue of Greg Rucka's run, is called Perfect. Now, the perfect is, I think, symbolic of, obviously it's symbolic of the golden perfect, the magic lasso. And because in this issue, she gets the magic lasso back. It's also perfect in this respect. It's perfect. The perfect ending is Wonder Woman ends up in bed with Steve Trevor, so that's perfect. So it's a beautiful last page illustrated by Bill Chris Everly. Liam Sharp also illustrates the issue. So once again, the art is truly beautiful throughout the series. And so it's perfect in the ending, because Wonder Woman gets some intimacy with Steve Trevor, and it's perfect in that it's referring she gets the golden lasso back. But it's also perfect in a way that isn't very good. It makes Wonder Woman perfect. Wonder Woman seems to be perfect again. And Wonder Woman can only be perfect if she has the golden perfect, because she's kind of an angry, moody bitch when she doesn't have the magic lasso. It's a point of which Batman and Superman try to very delicately deal with. Batman's a little more blunt about it. Superman almost seems to be a little bit afraid of Wonder Woman, because it's like, ooh, crazy Amazon, moody bitch. Watch what I say. The Amazons are perfect, inaccessible. It's Paradise Island. Wonder Woman is almost like Christ-like, loving, supplicating, etc., etc. That's precisely the type of boring Wonder Woman that we've experienced in the past, that has generally led to very uninteresting stories, to mythologically based stories. The Brian Azzarello version, where the Amazons were flawed, where they raped sailors for their sperm every 3 times every 100 years, that was exciting. That I could believe. Wonder Woman being the god of war, that was cool. Wonder Woman being imperfect with flaws, that was cool. I'm not a fan of this perfect Wonder Woman. Look, if Wonder Woman was perfect in the movies, I mean, Wonder Woman was naive in the movies. Wonder Woman had harsh lessons and hard lessons that she learned in the movie. Entering man's world, World War I, seeing the flaws of man, seeing the flaws in herself, the way her thinking was wrong. Her actually naively believing that evil was something that was imposed on man as opposed to something that man did himself. There is a lot of Wonder Woman is in serious need of some flaws here, and I really hope that as it moves forward, that's going to be the case. Because remember, Darkseid War took place during the New 52, and the Darkseid War established that Wonder Woman has a brother. And now, if Wonder Woman went through, of all of Wonder Woman's history has been a lie, does her brother Jason, what does he think his life was? Is Jason a character that we're already aware of? Jason of Jason and the Argonauts? Maybe he's an existing DCU character for all we know. I'm just speculating here. But if Wonder Woman has discovered that her entire New 52 world is nothing but a lie, and now she's on a new path, a new discovery, who is Wonder Woman's brother, and what secrets and lies and truths has he discovered as he moves forward into the new DCU. Guys, those are my comments. Feel free to comment your own comments on Greg Rucka's Wonder Woman run. Overall, I give this. I'm gonna give this a 6.5 out of 10. For new readers, I'll go so far to give it an 8. But for more scrutinizing readers, I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10 in my mind. All right. So having said that, guys, it's Canada Day here. It's July 3rd when I'm doing this, and tomorrow is July 4th. So I say Happy Canada Day to my fellow Canadians, and to my American friends, Happy July 4th. Happy Independence Day. Comic Boo out.